Today, I will be sharing my favorite way to approach home league fantasy football drafts this season. In other words, my perfect draft. The landscape changes each year in fantasy football. It is our job to adjust. This year, wide receivers are going earlier than ever. Tight end is stronger than ever. And the overwhelming majority of running backs are in some form of a committee. I will go position by position, sharing my strategy at each spot and guys who I am targeting. Quarterback this year, I really want one of the top 10. For us, that starts with Josh Allen / Jalen Hurts at the top and goes all the way down to our QB 10, who is Jayden Daniels. The smaller the league is, if it's a 10-team league or something like that, the more I want to focus on onesie positions like quarterback and tight end. In normal 12-team leagues, which I assume most of you are playing, I'm fine letting the board come to me at quarterback. The elite dual threat quarterbacks in Allen, Hurts, Lamar Jackson are all really strong round 3 or round 4 picks. I know that in a lot of leagues, those guys are going to go higher than that, and that's fine. Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Jayden Daniels going much later all have paths to be close to that top tier. The guys who I think are going to go too high are the pocket passers. CJ Stroud in round 4, Joe Burrow in round 5 or 6, Dak Prescott in round 6, Jordan Love in round 6 or 7. I'm okay with all those guys, and I think they'll all have really solid seasons, but I only would want them for fantasy if they really slip far past their current ADP, because they're competing with the guys who will rush for 500 plus yards and threaten 7 to 10 rush TDs. And I think CJ Stroud's a really good example of this. It's just awkward because I really do like CJ Stroud this season. I think Texans pass rate, 3 wide receiver set rate, first down throw rate, it's all going to spike, which is good for CJ Stroud. I think he's a legit threat to lead the NFL in passing yards and passing TDs, but he's going 46th overall, ahead of Anthony Richardson, 8 spots behind Lamar Jackson. He's going 20 spots ahead of Kyler Murray. He's going 60 spots ahead of Jayden Daniels. For CJ Stroud to compete there or to win there, he's going to need some insane volume and insane efficiency. It's just a really thin path. But the important thing is that I just don't want to leave my draft without a top 10 quarterback per our ranks, so that Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Jayden Daniels tier is where I want to make my move if I'm desperate. What we need to do, or what we can do, is keep our eye on what our opponents have done. Most people won't take 2 top 10 quarterbacks in their draft. So if we're paying attention, we know who's a threat to take a quarterback. Running back position in fantasy football has gotten really nuanced, and that is because with wide receivers going so much higher, emergence of dual threat quarterbacks, all these elite tight ends, there's not a lot of places in the draft where I'd actually like to take running back over those positions. The one place where I think it's actually close, though, is in rounds 1 and rounds 2. And that is why for this year, I am leaning towards being more running back heavy in round 1 and round 2 than later on. I just don't want to get myself into a spot where I don't have running backs and then I'm in the dead zone and I'm taking guys like Rachaad White or Josh Jacobs in round 3 when I could be taking Malik Neighbors, Josh Allen, Michael Pittman, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid in round 4 or round 5. I don't want to be taking running backs over those guys. So in round 1 and round 2, where it's close, and I do think it's close in a lot of spots. If you wanted to argue with me that Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson and Kyren Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs are better than Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I would disagree with you, but I wouldn't argue with you that hard. And so in the first couple rounds, I am totally fine using one of those 2 picks or both of those picks on McCaffrey, Bijan, Breece Hall, Gibbs, Taylor, Barkley, Achane, Kyren Williams. Even if you had to squeeze in an Isaiah Pacheco or Derrick Henry to make things work in the back of round 2, I wouldn't kill you for that. What I don't want to do is get into the dead zone and take guys such as Josh Jacobs, who has an ADP of 25 overall, James Cook, 38 overall, Rachaad White, 34, Joe Mixon, 42, Kenneth Walker, 46, Dave Montgomery, 60, Najee Harris, 69, Kamara, 46, DeAndre Swift, 65, Ramondre Stevenson, 59. That is the entire tier that I want to pass over. We just see it so often, those guys get replaced. Remember this time last year, guys like Miles Sanders and Dameon Pierce were going in that range, and they just got flat out passed for their job. No one could have seen that coming, except this happens all the time in the running back dead zone. So then later in the draft, I can come back with guys that I really like that are in timeshares, yes, but have the talent to win out in those timeshares. We're talking about guys like Jaylen Warren, who's going 87th overall. Talking about Raheem Mostert, 73. I'm talking about Zach Moss at 84 and Chase Brown at 116. Really like both of those guys. Brian Robinson at 96. Tony Pollard at 85. Javonte Williams at 95 overall. And then even as you get deeper, there's guys like Zach Charbonnet, 137, and Ty Chandler, 155. Guys who I think are talented and will be the 1B in their backfields, but certainly upside for plenty of touches each week. And then you get the injury contingent upside as well. The important thing is that I want to have a barbell approach at running back. I want to be really strong early and then avoid that middle and then be strong when volume in terms of how many running backs I'm taking shots on late. One point that I do want to make is that in home leagues and redraft, we can drop players. In fact, we want to be dropping players. We want to be churning the back of our roster because the waiver wire is so important to winning leagues. So you can take guys like J.K. Dobbins, who might be a 0, but might be a smash. Marshawn Lloyd might be a 0, might be a smash. Jalen Wright, same thing. Those are guys who I think are more valuable in home leagues versus best ball, because if it doesn't work out early, first couple weeks, we don't see anything, they're not getting the usage that we thought, just dump them, and maybe we can hit something big on the wire like a Puka Nacua or a Kyren Williams. Wide receiver is indeed the key to our fantasy drafts. This is where there is the biggest inefficiency in home leagues. Most people are still letting wide receivers slip too far through the cracks in the middle and middle late rounds. They're reaching for dead zone running backs, for pocket passing quarterbacks, and even tight ends, whereas we have already accomplished what we need to at running back, hopefully, and we can start really hammering wide receiver in the middle rounds. There is just no reason Malik Neighbors should be going 52nd overall. We have him ranked 25th. There's no reason Christian Kirk and Tank Dell should be available in rounds 5, 6, or 7. Devontae Smith in late 3, early 4. Jaden Reed. These are all great values. The rookies in Brian Thomas, Rome Odunze go absurdly late. They're great 8th, 9th, 10th round picks. Same with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Rashee Rice, even if he gets a short suspension, he's an awesome mid-round target. I could keep going and going. There are so many values in the middle rounds, and that's why we can break ties in rounds 1 and round 2 at other positions, because we know there's going to be great wide receivers that slip to us in our draft. Now, we can't do this blindly. I think there are some wide receivers we need to be careful with. Some wide receivers that I think are going too high. Devontae Adams is going 17th overall. We have him ranked 22nd. I think Zay Flowers is being overdrafted a little bit. George Pickens is in the wrong offense with the wrong quarterback play to be going in the 4th or 5th round. So we can't just do it blindly through the middle rounds. The other thing about late rounds, and the one reason that I do want to hammer middle round wide receivers so hard is because late round wide receivers, it's unlikely we find really great value there. Wide receiver fantasy points are scored through talent, not just opportunity, whereas running back fantasy points are scored mostly through opportunity. That's why late in my draft, I'm hopefully already loaded at wide receiver, and I can take flyers on running backs with a path, such as Blake Corum, Zach Charbonnet, Tyler Algier, Ray Davis, Marshawn Lloyd, Braylon Allen, etc. So at wide receiver, I really want to be focused on catching those falling values based on our ranks in roughly rounds 3 through 9. Tight end position is crazy this year, just incredibly strong at the top. I've been doing this a long time. This is probably the strongest top 8 at tight end I've ever seen in fantasy football. I think that allows us to be really flexible with our strategy at the position. 1 or 2 of these tight ends is going to fall too far, and I'll be there to pounce. I do want to say one tight end who won't fall too far, I think, is Travis Kelce. He's going very early or late round 2, very early round 3. Set a career low in routes last season. Would expect those routes to be even lower this year as he enters his age 35 season. Chiefs need to save him for the playoffs. Don't need him as badly this season now that they have Rashee Rice, Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy. Also going early, Sam Laporta. I'm just uncomfortable with him, not because of talent or usage or production, but because of just how high Sam Laporta goes. Him and Kelce both go back-to-back that late round 2, early round 3 range. I'd much rather reach a quarterback there or take a wide receiver or even take a running back like Pacheco or Derrick Henry, because 20 or 30 picks later, I think I can get similar production from Trey McBride. Dalton Kincaid, or Mark Andrews. And even if I miss on that tier, and I do really like that tier, but even if I miss on that tier, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, Evan Ingram, that tier has serious upside of its own. I mean, we're talking about guys in Pitts, Kittle, Ingram who are going as the 6th, 7th, and 8th tight ends in our rankings. They can easily get 20 or 25 fantasy points in a game. We do not normally see that upside at the tight end position. Now, I really do want to get one of that top 8, ending with Evan Ingram, as I said. But if I really get squeezed, I think Jake Ferguson, David Njoku, Brock Bowers can be fine targets. And if we get to that point, everybody else should almost all have a tight end. They should be going real late, rounds 10 or 11, and that's certainly an option as well. So the important thing for me at tight end this season is there's so many. I don't want to be reaching for tight end when I get into the middle rounds and there's a spot where there's not a screaming wide receiver value. That's where I want to pounce on one of these tight ends. A couple more things to keep in mind for home leagues before I get into my perfect draft here. Late in the draft, I always want to be reaching for as much upside as I can. I want to try to hit a home run. If I swing and I miss, it's fine. I'll just drop him and go to the waiver wire. And so guys who I think have fine base projections, like say an Adam Thielen, it's not really the kind of guy I want to take late. I want to lean into more uncertainty, more ambiguity. Somebody like A.D. Mitchell or Ricky Pearsall or Michael Wilson to me would be better picks late than Adam Thielen in a home league setting. Other thing is, don't feel like you have to draft a kicker or a defense. There is so much more value in holding a running back or a wide receiver in the 1 to 2 weeks between your draft and the actual NFL season starting. We can always just add a kicker or a defense off waiver later on. Streaming those positions each week is a very viable, if not preferred, strategy. All right, let's try to put all this into practice. Let's say I'm in a 12-team half PPR league. This is ideally how I'd like my draft to go. First round, breaking ties with running back. I go Breece Hall. Second round, again, breaking ties with running back. I go Kyren Williams. Now I need to start really focusing on wide receiver. Nico Collins in round 3. Devonta Smith in round 4. Rashee Rice in round 5. And then maybe I'll find a tight end who slips too far past ADP, and I get George Kittle here in round 6. Jaden Reed is a great value in round 7, despite the crowded Packers wideout core. Come back to running back a little bit later here for a talented guy with upside in Jaylen Warren. Want to make sure here in round 9, I don't leave without one of those quarterbacks that I want. Last one, Jaden Daniels. Last one available. Totally fine with that. After that, in rounds 10, 11, 12, and on, I'm just looking for really high upside guys who have fallen too far. Round 10, Chase Brown has a chance to at least take control of this backfield that also has Zach Moss in it with a really good team. Brian Thomas, the kind of wide receiver I want to bet on. Really good talent, round 1 draft capital going in round 11. And then Rico Dowdle. If Ezekiel Elliott is washed, we could see Rico Dowdle have a really good role on one of the best offenses in the league. Those are the kind of swings that I want to make in rounds 10 and later in my draft. All right. A lot is going to change in the final couple weeks here before peak draft season. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be depth chart changes. ADP is going to change. Be sure you're subscribed to our YouTube here. We'll keep you up to date on everything. If you want to have the most up-to-date rankings at your draft, you need to head to establishtherun.com and pick up our Draft Kit Pro. We are tweaking these rankings literally all day and all night to account for the latest information you need to know. And comment in the section below with your perfect draft. Good luck, everybody.